Everything in this world has a dual nature. These two opposing forces balance or counteract each other if necessary. This dual nature of the universe urged humans to create a face aside from their own. Masks have always been powerful symbols for the dual nature of human experience. They have different functions in human lives. They are used for protection, disguise, entertainment, or ritual practices, and are made from various materials, depending on use. Unlike what the Western world perceives, masks were not always regarded as work of art. Earliest use of masks was for rituals and ceremonies, and the oldest found mask is from 7000 before Christ. They are of ritual purpose and can be found in many places of the world. Their function can be religious or magical. Generally, they are similar in their overall appearance, but very different in style and the way they are made and used. In Alaska, shamans and their apprentices carve masks, which are worn at festivals to honor animals and the peace spirits. Masks can depict a shaman's companion who helps guide them through journeys and visions through the spirit world. In Bali, masks are created to harbor energies and are featured in sacred rituals and traditional dances. In Africa, they are used in ceremonies which purpose is to communicate with ancestral spirits, make possible to communicate with animal spirits of savannas and forests, worn during initiation ceremonies, and they reference features of cosmology, culture, and nature, and they can symbolize conflict between good and evil. Pacific Northwest coastal groups have very skilled woodworkers that make complex masks used in shamanic rituals that represent unity between men, their ancestors, and animals that make hunt. They are also used in exorcising of evil spirits from the sick. In Oceania, where the culture of the ancestral worship is very strong, masks are made to represent ancestors. Big masks, some 6 meters high, are used as a protection from evil spirits. Ancient Aztecs in Latin America used masks to cover the faces of the dead. They made them from leather in the beginning, but later started making them from copper and gold. From ancient times, masks were also used in theater. Oldest theater masks are from ancient Greece, and masks are used in traditional Japanese no drama. In India, Kumatikali performers in colorful masks go from door to door, entertaining families and receiving small gifts. These wooden masks can represent characters such as hunters and gods. In the Pacific Northwest, masks are worn during winter ceremonies, celebrating the mythological adventures of regional spirits and heroes. In time, masks are used in medieval theater, in mystery and miracle plays, during the Renaissance as well as today. In the Philippines, it may be generally observed that the varied indigenous traditions did not have widespread use of masks in their rituals and festivals. In some cultural nuances, masks had a connotation of duplicity and betrayal. There are also some religious prohibitions that stop people from using masks. Masks are extensively used in theater productions that recall folk tales, surviving religious dramas, myths, and legends, or to profile larger-than-life characters or social villains. In the Visayas and Mindanao, the use of masks was influenced by the Sanskrit epic traditions. This may be because of the peoples of these cultures were either bearers of Indic culture or had cultural interaction with the ancient empires of India. In modern times, masks are employed to convey particular messages in festivals and theater practices. Theater productions of Mindanao, with its emphasis on the historical cultural struggles of its different indigenous people, find use for character masks culled from the Indic epic traditions of Ramayana and Mahabharata. Known for exotic theatrical movements in dance drama, and chant tradition, Mindanao theater practice adds the visual impact of elaborate masks for spectacle and emphasis. Indigenous masks were largely made of wood and were almost always rudimentary, because they represented otherworldly characters and therefore carving them in complete shapes would have been presumptive and an infringement against the spirits. In Ifugao, Bulol, oftentimes referred to as rice guardian, still has an essential role in the ritual life of the Ifugaos of the Cordillera. Masks were derived from the Bulol to stand guard at the entrances of homes or grain reserves and may not be worn in any ceremony. The burial masks of the Visayas, on the other hand, were indicative of the importance of the deceased and the Visayans' fondness for gold and precious materials. Gold masks were hammered and embossed, providing separate materials for covering the eyes and mouth. These mask-making practices ended with the arrival of European colonizers. One of the oldest and most colorful festivals in the Philippines can be found in Luzon, the Moriones Festival of Marinduque. The festival is celebrated during the Holy Week, following the Passion, Crucifixion, and Resurrection of the Lord Jesus Christ. The morion is a rather large mask or visor, part of the Roman covering the face. The morion mask includes the Roman face and is completed with a Roman costume. Besides its dramatic effect, it signifies the wearer's distancing from the character, meaning the actors are faithful followers of Christ, while the characters, Roman soldiers, they represent are pagans and prosecutors of Christ and his disciples. Among the most recent additions to the Philippine festival vocabulary, the week-long Mascara Festival of Bacolod City. The provincial capital of Negros Occidental has become world-renowned and therefore one of the most successful festivals in terms of participation and attendance. Coined from the words mas or many and cara from the Spanish cara, face, the festival takes on the color and gaiety of the Mardi Gras of Rio de Janeiro. The masks show smiling faces with elaborate colorful decorations to hide the fact that the people are in great pain and sadness. The festival itself was a reaction to the sinking of a passenger ship which carried more than 1,000 negrenses. Notwithstanding its superficial qualities, the Mascara Festival is a safety valve for relieving social tensions that normally characterize the relationship between landlords and peasants.
First question po namin ay, what inspired you to delve into the art of mask making?
Well, mask, I've always been excited about masks, no? Yung cultural aspect ng masks. Masks, it is cultural. So now we talk about cultural heritage, but many years ago, 20 years ago, when we first started to do mask making, it was more for naturalistic representation of the face. No? This is mask making, and then we can, on top of that, kung pag-usapan natin yung kultura, we can talk about other cultures. Isa buhay natin ang kultura kung saan kayo nanggaling. So, the Moriones masks, the Marinduque, yan. So tapos kung excited ka sa mga Mexican or sa masks of Mexico, mas maganda rin. It goes beyond, the local culture. So, we look at the African masks, then we can talk about the masks that inspired Picasso to get into, Cubism. So, lumalawak, maganda siya. It should be one exciting, simple yet exciting activity that covers a lot of other things. Technical, cultural, and then, of course, it allows for interdisciplinary connection. Something like we did masks for dance, at one time. We did for ballet dancers.
What principles of design do you enjoy in mask making?
Very, very important sa mask making yung pag-employ ng principles design, which is balance. Kasi it has to be functional. The design can be such na it can be asymmetrical. You have to balance, like yung Phantom of the Opera, di ba? It can be asymmetrical, but you have to talk about balance in general. You really have to be very conscious of that principle because it's supposed to be a functional piece. Of course, importante sa masks. So when you do the design, it has to be really it has to have rhythm and movement because there are masks specifically made, and I call them the character mask, wherein when the artist or theater artist wears it, he or she takes on that character. So dapat doon pa lang sa mask, may character na siya na di ba na malungkot. We have to exaggerate it, and by means of rhythm, by use of lines, and ma-emphasize natin yung character ng mask. That na i-take on ng role na isa sa buhay ng theater artists.
Which aspect of mask making actually concretize your advocacy and style?
I'm an advocate of, as an art teacher, I advocate yung discipline-based art education. It's wherein it's an approach wherein, you emphasize sa pagtuturo ng art na on top of the art production, we strengthen also, the cultural aspect of it. So history and culture. So when you talk about objects and artifacts, dapat maging conscious tayo na i-articulate saan galing to. O anong history nito? What inspired you? Mga ganung bagay, diba? So the art historical component. The advocacy is always been there as an art teacher to highlight masks as a cultural artifact.
What obstacles do you encounter in making masks?
Biggest obstacle really is what? Resource. It's always been the materials, and coming from a third world, challenging tayo, no? Kailangan yung teacher maging resourceful and to seek alternative materials.
What do you want to tell them, to those aspiring mask makers?
To the future mask maker. Okay, before you get excited about African masks and Mexican masks, look first sa ating sarili. Please allow us to work with our hands again, and then connect it with our head. You think it is both expressive and at the same time it's cognitive, it's cerebral. And then ikabit natin na ito ay sa ating, yun yung sa puso natin. Then when we connect the head, the heart, and the hand, that allows for artistry. You know, this is something exciting that will complete our being because it is in the realm of artistry.
Prepare the following materials: paper plate, rubber band or string, scissors, colored pencils or crayons, colored papers, paste or glue, gold or silver dust, other accessories like beads, feathers, etc. Fold the paper plate into two. Draw on one side one eye, half of a smiling mouth, and half of the nose. Unfold the paper plate and copy what you have drawn on the other side. With the crayons and colored papers, decorate the mask to show a festive mood and a happy face. Use other materials like gold dusts, feathers, beads to enhance the features of the mask. Punch a hole in the eye to allow the wearer to see. Cut 2 more holes for the nose. Staple the rubber band or string on the extreme sides of the paper plate to secure the mask around the head of the wearer. Prepare the following materials: person's or mannequin's face, aluminum foil, 2 tablespoons of cornstarch or gao-gao, 1/2 cup water, strips of newspapers or paper, poster or enamel paint, pan, stove, stirrer or spoon. Make your own paste by mixing the cornstarch and water in a pan. Cook it in a low fire until it thickens. Let it cool. Cut a piece of aluminum foil enough to cover the face. Put the foil on the face and follow the contours of the face for eyes, nose, and mouth. Make sure to press lightly and make holes for the nose. Paste the strips of paper on the aluminum foil while still on the mold or face. Make 2 to 3 layers, then carefully remove from the mold or face. Let it dry. Remove the aluminum foil from the dried paper. Make sure to retain the shape of the face. Continue adding strips of papers until desired thickness. Make sure that the final layer of paper is smooth. Dry the mask under the sun before painting. Decorate or color the mask according to your preference. Time and traditions have used masks in expressing the duality of life. Masks may have different shapes, forms, colors, etc. But one thing is the same. It keeps the face and the real person behind it hidden.